Welcome, everyone. My name is Mahmoud Faisal Elkhatib, the Bowtie Attorney, and we are here on our Bowtie podcast with the great Niko Apostal. Did I get it right?
Yep.
I added a little bit of a little twist to it.
Little ethnic twist. In Chicago, we see Apostle.
Yeah, right.
It can go either way.
As you know, I'm a real estate attorney. I help you tie down deals. We untangle title. And of course, some parts of us, we go and battle with the city and fight with banks and do all these things to help property owners, to protect property owners and to stay in their homes and own their properties. And we're here with Nico. Nico, you tell us a little bit. So you are a real estate broker, right?
I am. I'm a realtor. I've been a realtor for 24 years, a member of Chicago Association of Realtors. I started off just in Lincoln Park at a Coldwell Banker office and had wonderful formative years working with my mom was a realtor. My father was a real estate broker and investor developer. And they were both teachers and they did real estate on the side. And that was kind of how it was kind of what I grew up with. So, and
you
then
don't have veins through your body, you've got conduit.
Exactly. That's a good way to say it. I love that. Yeah, totally. So, I have childhood memories of going with my father to one of the 6 flats and vacuuming the floors and changing the light bulbs and fixing the plumbing and things like that. So it was ingrained pretty early on in my existence.
That's awesome.
And then
that's financial literacy, like right live, right? That's real financial literacy teaching you how to.
And it was for me. It made me not afraid of problems that come up, and I think that's been pretty valuable over the years. There's always a solution, maybe costly or maybe time consuming, but there's always a solution. So
you may not like it, but it's there.
Right, exactly. And if you keep up with maintenance, then those problems are few and far between. So that's another takeaway I got from growing up with that in that world.
That's a good one. That's a good one because so many people are like, oh, you know what? I'll just kick it off, and I'm not going to do it, and then they just.
And then the problem becomes bigger and bigger. That and and you might as well do it sooner so you don't have to stress or worry about it and enjoy whatever fix you've made. I just tell people not to postpone those things.
And so you are the managing broker at Essex 312, right?
I am. I'm the new managing broker. Started a month ago.
Congratulations. And I would have thought that 312 is because it's Chicago, but you actually said it's something totally different. That's awesome. Tell me.
Right. So the intention is for us to be the specialist of the 3 to 12 unit buildings, those easily accessible buildings for a first time or small time investor. And that's what they brought me in for. There's a whole different animal selling 20 to 400 unit properties to investment groups than it is to try and sell or help someone buy a 3 flat, something that they might live in a unit. So my job is coming into this role is to be the bridge between the residential world and the investing world. And
so how are you attracting those? That's fantastic. How are you attracting those, kind of like how are you hitting that niche? How are you attracting the people who want to buy that?
So part of it is just the sphere of people that I've worked with in the past. A good chunk of my clients, since the pandemic, almost 50% of my business has become this 2 to 4 flat space. And now they're asking for their next larger building. All these people who bought condos are now looking into a 2 to 4 flat, have some piece of income or revenue coming in rather than just own a condo you're hoping is going to appreciate. So the conversation has changed, I think, quite significantly since the pandemic. And the other thing I think about it is that, we live in a market that is the highest concentration of 2 to 4 flats in the country. It's also the highest concentration of the smaller, 10 to 12 unit buildings in the country. That's amazing. There's just real opportunity here. So it's not hard to reach out to people who've owned buildings for decades, generations, and see if they're ready to move those on. Likewise, it's a really easy conversation to have whenever you're meeting people coming and going to say, how would you like to live for free someday?
That's awesome. And
mailbox money is exciting.
Now, the market though is like those of us in real estate are seeing it, right? The market is inventory tight. So,
true.
And whatever's out there is super inflated. At least that's people say, right? Like, oh, I'm paying too much, whatever.
Yeah.
How have you kind of navigated that within this 3 to 12 space? Like, how are you finding that inventory?
Sure. There is a little bit more deal flow in this space. There will always be people whose, investment goals change, their life changes, and these units will turn over. So while the market is down here like it is in the market inventory and the transaction rate is down here similar to what it is in others, it's just not down quite as much. Also, the city is vast and wide, and not all neighborhoods are experiencing such a shortage. Some neighborhoods are still turning over quite well. So, but beyond that, I think there's plenty of business to go around if agents work together and if you
I love that.
approach things in the right way and try to solve problems and put together puzzle pieces. It's not really. There's always opportunity if you know where to look for it.
That's such a beautiful way to look at things. There's so many, the idea of abundance versus scarcity, right?
Truly,
Like
yeah.
I've always said that there's more than enough business to go around, right? I can't do every real estate transaction. I can't. Like, it's just physically impossible, right? But
Right.
I'd be happy with, I don't know, pick a number, right? Like 100 or 200 or whatever it is. But then I'm going to need somebody to work with for the ones other than that, right? And
Right. Mm-hmm.
that's beautiful. So
Right.
I'm sure you build that network of brokers then.
Right. And so the source of my clients and my transactions comes from the past clients I have, being involved in neighborhood associations, neighborhood groups, chambers of commerce, things like that, networking groups, business networking groups, the business community here in Chicago, but also from residential brokers. So I have a pretty good steady stream of good relationship with a lot of the brokers all over the city and suburbs. And they often get someone who's selling a condo downtown gets an opportunity on a 6 flat. It's better to have me assist them and give them a nice referral fee rather than
Right.
have them wade into some potentially complicated situation and time consuming.
That's a great segue
stressful.
because, like, buying multi-unit family buildings, especially, for a new person, can be kind of hairy, right?
It is. It can be stressful. I think a lot of people get afraid of the worst case scenario, and those really don't happen as often as you'd think. So in the Great Recession, a partner of mine, Lauren Hunman, and we started a property management company called Owl Management, focusing entirely on on these smaller buildings, not the huge doorman style buildings, but
Right.
we built our client base up to 800 plus apartments managed with
Wow.
about a staff of 13. So it was a great operation. We ended up selling it to Westward 360 right before the pandemic, but it was an experience, and you really learn that, like, when you take over time, if you're doing regular maintenance and you're being careful about your systems and your processes and you're following, setting down a method and sticking to it, those procedures will help you find success with a minimum amount of stress, with a minimum of angst, problems, things that might come down the road. So I like, when I'm meeting with a client, to help set them up for success. So I'm not just going to sit down there with somebody and say, here's a building, good luck, see you later. Let's get them set up with systems, accounting, all the rest of it they need, a whole list of contractors that can handle any situation, and whatever attorney might be needed in case there's a dispute with a tenant.
And you
But
put
you
that
set someone up for
together.
success, and
You put that together
and
right
make
after
them
you
money.
buy. You're like, hey, let me carry you through that process. That is unique.
Exactly.
That's very unique. You see a lot of brokers are like, okay, thanks, I got my commission, I'm out, right? And you're like, wait a minute, what am I doing?
I know, but this is a relationship business, right? I mean, I'm building
Very
a
much so.
relationship that I'm hoping which is
You're
why
looking
people
for
are calling me back for the next building, So
Absolutely. Absolutely. What about leading up to, what are some of the tips that you have when they're buying a property or someone's buying a multi-unit? What should they be looking out for? Like, what are the red
Sure.
flags? What are green flags?
Yeah, exactly. So the red flags, I think, are usually something construction related. Like, are the mechanicals really old? How much is it going to cost for me to make improvements to the property? Some of those beautiful brick buildings that, the classic Chicago style 2 flat or 3 flat that has the front bay window and an entrance on the side, right? Some of those have an opportunity in the basement to add a unit, depending on how that goes, or an attic space to add a unit. Those buildings also have a unique sort of level of maintenance that's needed. Windows get old, gaps can happen, plumbing can be old, electrical. So walking through a property and with just a simple checklist that I have pinned up here that says, that gives me a reminder of everything to check when you're walking through a property, that can help a great deal in keeping someone from buying something that's going to be a money pit. Likewise, opportunities. When you walk through, there's three real opportunities that exist when you have these older properties. Chicago has a lot of properties that are anywhere from 80 to 120 years old, and knowing that what tenants are most after is a comfortable place to live, good bedroom sizes. They would love to have dishwasher in the unit, laundry in the unit, and central air conditioning. And if you can walk into a space that doesn't have some or all of those and create that, that is the huge value add that's out there. So walking into a building, you walk into, let's say, an old vintage Greystone. Usually the kitchen is in the back and there's a pantry closet right off of it. That pantry closet is usually the same all through the building. So 3 units might have the same pantry closet in the same place right to the back end of the basement. It's really easy to run plumbing and electrical up there to add in HVAC systems or laundry in the unit and make it consistent all the way through the whole property. So knowing that you walk into a building, you see that opportunity, that's something that's it's pretty straightforward to be able to do and create a huge value add. Because now you are able to raise the rent on each unit by $300 or $400, and suddenly that building's value is $200,000 more when you go to sell it or refinance.
Because if you're looking at a 3-unit or a 4-unit and you're adding $300 more per unit, you just added $1,000 to $2,000 depending on how many units in the building, just by doing that.
Exactly, right. And so while that cost might be significant, if you can see a place where you can reduce that cost, likewise building out a garden apartment. If you walk into a basement of a building and the ceilings are 7 feet tall and there's 2 means of ingress and egress, 2 ways to get in and out of that unit, odds are it's not that hard, 50, 60 grand away from turning that into an apartment. And there's new laws that are coming out next year in April. We're going to have an ADU ordinance for Chicago that's expanded to the whole city. Those units can become legal. And you buy a building with 3 units from the bank won't consider that 4th unit legal, so they don't value it. Suddenly you make it a legal unit, and now your 3-unit building's a 4-unit building, and it's worth 25% more when you go to free finance it.
That's amazing.
And those opportunities are here. They're coming. They're right on the edge of it. And so this is why it's exciting to be working in this space right now.
Yeah, no, I've always said that the 3-unit, the 4-unit, to 12-unit, that's a sweet spot, right? Mm-hmm. How have you seen lenders kind of handle it for buyers and investors? How do the lenders space in this?
Yeah, great question. And this is one of the big advantages to working in this space is that, at least in the 2 to 4 flat space, those are the tax code and lenders and all financing considers those primary residences. Those are the same financing as single family homes. That's so cool. You can put as little as 5% down or as little as 3.5% down if it's an FHA loan from the government. Right. But even standard regular everyday lenders now are doing 5% down, 30-year amortization, same as a home loan. They're doing regular, same rate that you get on a home loan. Right now it's around 6.25%. When I check every day, right? So it swings our business.
That is Bitcoin, right? Like what's Bitcoin at and what's the interest rates at?
Right. Yeah. Sure. So and then those opportunities are great for someone buying into it, and you can buy one of those a year as a primary resident, and then the next year you can look for the next one if you want. And you have to move into the property. It's true. And it shouldn't be that hard. I mean, especially if I can head off that first-time buyer who's thinking of buying a cool loft condo in River North. If I can convince that person who has very little, no dependents, very little income expenses to buy that and live in, let's say, the garden apartment and rent out the other 2, within a year, they've saved enough to buy the next building. And then once you have 5 or 6 units, the income from that is great. I mean, that is like a whole extra salary that you can maintain with minimal effort.
Absolutely.
When you get into 5 units and up, it changes now, right? So now you're doing commercial financing.
All right.
But there's more options than ever now for that. It's no longer, 25, 30% down for a 20-year or 10-year amortization. There's So many options out there now. There's so many more lenders than ever before. Our company, Essex, a realty group, and they also have an Essex Capital Markets division. So we have 3 people in the office who sit right behind me over here, who basically all day long are finding lenders who have different sources of funds, different approaches to lending, different approaches to valuing a property, and that's it's a
What's
nice
the
little
money
asset.
down? That's awesome that they're right there next to you. I mean, is there some sort of money down or some sort of like if a person's looking at that, what should be what's their qualifications? Like, what's an ideal person in that position would qualify
Right.
for?
In terms of
Money
the
down
2 to 4
already.
flat or larger.
No, the larger
Oh,
ones. Yeah, the larger
okay,
ones.
the larger ones. So generally, it's going to depend on the revenue that's coming in and the upcoming expenses. So if a building has new roof, new windows, new boiler, maybe central air or something like that, if they have all new mechanicals, the plumbing and electricals been fixed, it's much easier for a bank to lend on that with less down. So you can actually even get those for 20% down, sometimes even less,
Okay.
depending on the revenue that's coming in on that.
Are they
Most
looking?
investors, though, will try to right size the down payment so that the expense matches the rents coming in. So
So it's
or
not.
exceed, the rents
Yeah,
exceed
yeah.
the
Debt
expenses.
service at
So
least is not over excessive.
it's true, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Very
so
cool.
that's a matter of knowing, like, is sometimes 30-35% makes everything work, versus 20-25%. So, but it's sort of, you have to, every situation is a little bit different.
Absolutely. Where do you see the markets in terms of the neighborhoods and the markets? Do you see any neighborhoods? And maybe you don't want to tell us, like maybe you want to keep this like your little secret, right, for your clients. But
No, I
is
mean,
there
I
certain
think, again,
areas?
there's opportunities for everybody. And if someone else can shake loose a listing or two for one of my buyers in one of these areas, I think more power to them, huh?
Yeah,
Let's all win together. But
absolutely.
I think what's, Chicago has so many wonderful neighborhoods. One of the things I love about this city is just the diversity of the makeup of buildings, the character of neighborhoods. A lot of these neighborhoods have kept their charm. They have an ethnic maybe component to it. They've got access to different amenities. And so the desire for these tends to ebb and flow based around that. But there are a few constants, such as access to good schools, access to public transportation, access to retail and entertainment, like parks and things like that.
Yeah.
Properties that are near those are always going to be on the leading edge of whatever the value is for that neighborhood. I also think it's just historically, if you look for where the development's going and just sort of find the next step, right now there's something like $7 billion going into development around United Center. I
Oh,
would
wow.
look everywhere south, north, south, and west of there. Maybe east is a little expensive already. That's you're in West Loop, and
Right,
there aren't as
right, right,
many
right.
investment property opportunities there. But there's a ton of opportunities around there that'll be walking distance to all those new venues. Buying in now, all you need is for the numbers to zero out. You're just one raise in rent away from profit. And 5 years from now, you're going to be saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe how much the demand to live over here."
That's
The
awesome.
other interesting thing about Chicago, for
Yeah.
better or worse, it's great for landlords, it's terrible for tenants, and it's hard for people who want to get in affordably. But our pace of building here in the city is extremely slow. We should be building 30 to 40,000 units a year, and we're averaging 12 to 15,000, and the bulk of those are rental apartments in larger buildings downtown or in on the
Right.
south side in Bronzeville is right now where all the construction is. So
There's
without
opportunity.
more supply, the prices will go up. Like the rents go up. I mean, it's brutal out there for tenants right now. But
Is
it's
that why
great if you're a
you
landlord.
think that's why I think it's great to be a landlord and it's tough to be a tenant because tenants there's just a shortage of rental housing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I raised rents on all my apartments this year, and nobody bat an eyelash. I had one turnover, and I was able to get $600 more a month for the same apartment, and did nothing different to it.
Wow.
So they had been
Wow.
there for 3 years. The rent was a little bit low, but I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
even surprised at the upside of where that had gone. And that was just a little 2 bedroom, 2 bath in Lakeview. Nothing,
That's awesome.
nothing too
Are you
fancy.
seeing that the debt service and the values are and like there's still ways like one of the things that I've heard like I got so many questions came at me at the exact same time, right? So, right, let's
Start
try that
unloading
back.
them. We'll do it. We'll do it.
Um, so one of the things is like in certain, obviously more expensive neighborhoods, the pricing of these multifamilies has gotten out of control, right? And you're still seeing some values that there's some certain areas, like you were saying, like the West Loop or the East Garfield Park area, right?
Yeah.
And then how do you are there other neighborhoods or other areas that you see that?
Yeah, I mean, Avondale remains hot. Everyone, tons of turnover there. The older buildings are coming up. But, it's same is true as in Edgewater, as in Rogers Park, as in I'm seeing a lot there. Bronzeville is on fire right now. Like, everybody is. There's so much construction there. The kinds of buildings that are being built in Bronzeville are so cool. They're really exciting stuff.
Really?
And you're seeing all different size and scale over there, too, which is a really fun, vibrant place to be. I'd be investing in Bronzeville for sure. But I think also you can look around the spillover from that, right? Because Bronzeville's going to leak into Kenwood, it's going to leak into Bridgeport, it's going to you've got tons of stuff going on in Pilsen. I mean, everywhere you look, there's some stuff going on. It just should be probably about 5 times as much construction in and around Chicago. I also think people discount neighborhoods as you just follow the L lines out, follow the Metro lines, look around the stop. You can always get a better rent on if you're near a Metro stop or an L stop. So if you're searching, just take a walk or go to the L stop, get off the train and walk around, jot down a few streets that you like, and then come back and set up a search for that.
That's awesome. Why do you think there's not much construction?
The permit
Like, why do you
process
think
in
there's not
Chicago,
enough construction? Got it. Yeah.
it takes a long time. I mean, regardless of whether it's they're doing a good job or not, it doesn't really matter. It just takes a long time. They probably need 2 or 3 times as many people processing permits and doing the inspections and things like that. I think that's the primary. And the other is zoning, like local zoning, different neighborhoods, the process for getting through neighborhood changes and down zoning in some areas. It makes it harder to build a building. But I think things like this ADU ordinance for Chicago, there's also a bill going through the State House in Illinois called the Missing Middle Housing Initiative, which is just really simple ways that it'll allow people to add a unit here or there. And we've seen for a long time now, if you look across Lincoln Park, Lakeview, even now Logan Square, a huge wave of deconstruction of these units. So you'll have, let's say, 2 frame, 3 flats lit on a block, like my parents live on Burling over here in Lincoln Park. Just down the block from 200-year-old frame 3 flats, there was probably 20 people living in the 2 buildings. And they were torn down to build a single-family home for 2 people who were only here half the year. Wow. And so that shrink in density does 2 things. One is it decreases the opportunities for new people to come in and live in the neighborhood. And secondly, it decreases opportunities for things like retail space. I mean, who's going to open up a shop if there's not enough people to shop in it,
Right.
So, but I think there is a movement. The city is aware of it. Neighbors are aware of it. You're starting to see a sea change as younger people move in and older people move on, and that we've kind of gone to an extreme level in some of these areas of shrinking the housing. So adding a coach house apartment, bulldozing your garage and putting a coach house with an apartment and 2 spaces on it. It's a really simple way to do it. And I'm hopeful that the way that the city is going to administer the ADU ordinance is going to come with some really simple, like, I don't know, a dozen different pre-approved floor plan, architectural plans for these coach houses, and then you can just pick one and that will expedite that process, and suddenly you'll add a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment to the back of what otherwise was a single family.
And you said
dwelling.
ADU. Just in case people don't know what ADU is.
Sorry. It stands for accessory dwelling unit.
I was going to think it was additional. Accessory dwelling unit. I love that. Okay.
Right. Adding an additional unit. And so Chicago has a lot grandfathered in where you have a garden apartment or an attic apartment or a coach house that may or may not have parking underneath it where the garage would be. But there's thousands of examples of that all over Chicago where that's the reality of the living situation. They're just not legal by zoning, and remedying that will do 2 things. One is it'll allow people to, engage and build more housing, which is what we want. And number 2, it'll increase the values of these properties. It'll, like I said, it'll make a 3-unit building a 4-unit building, and then suddenly it's worth 25% more when you go to refinance, and then that's money that'll free someone up to go buy another one and do the same thing. So I'm hopeful that that'll be sort of a more organic kind of grassroots effort to increase the housing supply, but time will tell. Chicago really, I always say this, it is out of everywhere I've been, it is the city with the most unrealized potential of any city on the planet. I mean, we've got the greatest people, we've got the greatest gumption. We deal with adversity really, really well, and we create opportunities where none existed before. I mean, hell, we built high rises on swamp land. I mean,
That's
who's got
crazy.
the guts to do that, right?
Some would say guts, some would say brains. Who knows? Whatever it is, we did it
A
and we
little of
got it.
both, I think, right?
Right? That's awesome. So, Nico, I really appreciate you coming on today. We loved
Sure.
having you. I would love to grab coffee with you and kind of connect with you more.
Anytime. I'm an
Yes.
avid networker. I'm a huge fan of this city and of our industry, and love to
Oh, I
see
was
us
going to
all
ask
do
you.
better.
You mentioned professional networking groups, right? So, as a
Mhm.
broker who's coming in, or a new broker, or somebody's trying to build their business, you were talking about professional networking groups. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Kind of like how have you
Yeah,
kind of.
briefly, I mean, it's really simple. All of whatever neighborhoods you enjoy working in, join the Chamber of Commerce and start showing up to the events. That fundamentally is one of the best things you can do. Do you have a neighborhood association? Do you have a condominium association? Get yourself there and get yourself on the board and get
Got it.
involved. Those are great ways to meet people. You hear about people's problems, you hear about how people solve their problems, and then you learn from it and you're able to maybe make a reference from one to another where you can get someone to do it. And then there's business networking groups. There's also, there's other things. But on a basic level, every broker runs a business and they should be treating it like a business in their local community. And so just get involved in that area.
That's awesome. Thank you for the last tip there.
Sure.
And we will definitely connect. Everyone, this is Mahmoud Faisal Elkhatib, bow tie attorney, and the illustrious and honorable Mr. Niko Apostal of
Thank you.
Essex Realty 312. Thank you again, and we'll definitely be in touch.